Welcome to another episode of Fill in the Blank Podcast. I'm here with Evan Ewing.
Are you?
I am here with you, hopefully. Evan, what's the greatest thing since blank? I'm not just talking about the podcast, but what's that phrase? How do you finish it? The greatest thing
Greatest
since
thing.
sliced.
Water?
What?
Tap water?
Sliced tap water.
Maybe not sliced tap water.
The greatest thing since sliced bread.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Well, that just lets you know what we're talking about. We're talking about sliced bread. What do you know about sliced bread?
Good for sandwiches.
What types of sandwiches?
Like ham and cheese.
What would
turkey.
we do without bread? Think of so many things that food-wise that are used with bread.
Not if you're on keto.
That's true. I guess this doesn't apply to the keto folks out there. Well, sliced bread is a loaf of bread that has been sliced with a machine and packaged for convenience. It was first sold in 1928, advertised as the greatest forward step in the baking industry since bread was wrapped. This led to the popular idiom, greatest thing since sliced bread. So, we're going to dive into the sliced bread and actually the ban that it was used in America. There was a ban of bread.
That sounds like a keto paradise.
Yeah, exactly. Keto heaven. Well, let's talk about some history of the bread. Otto Frederick Roedwetter of Davenport, Iowa, United States, invented the first single loaf bread slicing machine. A prototype he built in 1912 was destroyed in a fire, and it was not until 1928 that Roeder had a fully working machine ready. The first commercial use of a machine was by the Gillette Baking Company of Gillette, Missouri, which sold their first slices on July 7, 1928. Their product, clean-made sliced bread, proved to be a success, and Battle Creek, Michigan has a competing claim as the first city to sell sliced bread by Roeder's machine. However, historians have produced no documentation backing up Battle Creek's claim. The bread was advertised as the greatest forward step in the baking industry since bread was wrapped. So the idea that some guy just decides to slice bread, starts a whole thing. Can you think, like, I can't even think of making a sandwich. My childhood wouldn't, there'd be no peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't think of living without bread because we've always had it. At least I'm so known to it. But imagine what they were working with before.
Imagine whenever you wanted like a PB&J, you had to slice the bread.
Like actually slice it yourself.
Like with a knife yourself.
Oh my god, that'd be no good with PB&Js for me. I just cut the thing in half and eat it like a sub.
Yeah.
Well, St. Louis baker Gustav Papendick bought Roeder's second bread slicer and set out to improve it by devising a way to keep the slices together, at least long enough to allow the loaves to be wrapped. After failures trying rubber bands and metal pins, he settled on placing the slices into a cardboard tray. The tray aligned the slices, allowing mechanized wrapping machines to function. W. E. Long, who promoted the wholesome bread brand, used by various independent bakers across the country, pioneered and promoted the packaging of sliced bread beginning in 1928. In 1930, Wonder Bread, first sold in 1925, started marketing sliced bread nationwide. Wow. I know this is like kind of interesting. Why are they talking about bread? Because you don't really understand the usage of bread and how often we use it in society today. Like there's so many things that happen to do. Like the whole idea of a sandwich is bread.
Yeah.
Like you can do it with cabbage. You can do these other types of
Like
different
a lettuce
forms.
wrap.
But the whole fact that we use it around the world, it's a universal thing, much like electricity. You know, at least some places that are fortunate to have it, you wouldn't be able to think what it would be without, bread. And it's not like geophagia, where those people eat dirt. You ever heard of Haiti mud cookies?
No.
They use dirt, salt, and like some type of like butter or something, and they eat like mud. Yeah, it's the whole idea of filling your stomach with something to make sure you're not starving to death. You're just filling it with something, and they basically eat dirt. That's a whole nother podcast, though.
Jesus.
So let's talk about the effects. As commercially sliced bread resulted in uniform and somewhat thinner slices, people ate more slices of bread at a time. They also ate bread more frequently because of the ease of getting and eating another piece of bread. This increased consumption of bread and in turn increased consumption of spreads such as jam to put on the bread. So the whole idea, we wouldn't have jams, like the whole, like those whole different customized jams in a jar, squeezable jam, squeezable, peanut butter that you can spread, like there's all these different types, creamy, crunchy. You wouldn't have any of that without the production of sliced bread. So we might have had bread, but the whole fact you're going to want another sandwich if it's already sliced for you. It's all the whole idea. It's quicker and easier. You don't have to sit there and, how often do you not choose to have this certain food because of all the preparation it takes to make it? You want something quick and you want something now.
Well, the rising tide, they say, raises all boats. So bread gets a lot easier to eat and make and consume.
So more
jams and spreads and butters and that whole industry just gets way bolstered.
Think if it adds an extra 5 minutes to make buttered toast.
5 minutes is a lot.
Yeah, especially if you're like a single parent on the go or something, or just a lazy kid that doesn't have time and you got to get back to his video games. Well, in 1943, the U.S. ban on sliced bread. During 1943, U.S. officials imposed a short-lived ban on sliced bread as a wartime conservation measure. The ban was ordered by Claude R. Wickard, who held the position of food administrator, and took effect on January 18, 1943. According to the New York Times, officials explained that the ready sliced loaf must have a heavier wrapping than an unsliced one if it is not to dry out. It is also intended to counteract a rise in the price of bread, caused by the Office of Price Administration's authorization of a 10% increase in flour prices. In a Sunday radio address on January 24th, New York City Mayor LaGuardia suggested that bakeries that had their own bread slicing machines should be allowed to continue to use them. And on January 26, 1943, a letter appeared in the New York Times from a distraught housewife. The housewife said this: "I should like to let you know how important sliced bread is to morale and saneness of a household. My husband and 4 children are all in a rush during and after breakfast. Without ready sliced bread, I must do the slicing for toast, 2 pieces for each one. That's 10. For their lunches, I must cut by hand at least 20 slices, for 2 sandwiches apiece. Afterward, I make my own toast. 22 slices of bread to be cut in a hurry." With an exclamation point. She sounded very professional, but very pissed.
Yeah.
She really
you don't take a basic convenience away from your populace.
I mean, it's the same thing. It's exactly what I was saying. She's a mother trying to keep, everyone on their schedule. Everyone's, rushing to get where they need to be, get their thing done. She has to do all this by hand. It's an extra, 20 minutes out of her day.
That's why the rising tide raises all boats, the jam industry, and every single person who eats bread.
Time consumption.
You just that's forever an added amount of time that you have to your day. You don't have to fucking slice bread.
And you might think, oh, if your only problem is you have to do an extra 5 minutes to slice bread. I'm like, yeah, but a mother that has to take care of kids and provide for her all these different types of essential needs and for her whole family and run a household, it's easier if your kids aren't complaining and dragging you down. It's also she's saying, it's good for morale. It's good to keep her spirits high too. She can easily spread something on a piece of bread and give it to her kid to put in his lunch so he can run off to school because he's late. On January 26th, however, John F. Conaboy, the New York area supervisor of the Food Distribution Administration, warned bakeries, delicatessen, and other stores that were continuing to slice bread to stop, saying that to protect the cooperating bakeries against the unfair competition of those who continue to slice their own bread, we are prepared to take stern measures if necessary. Wow, an authoritative figure against the slicing of bread. On March 8, 1943, the ban was rescinded, while public outcry is generally credited for the reversal. Wicked stated that our experience with the order, however, leads us to believe that the savings are not as much as we expected, and the War Production Board tells us that sufficient wax paper to wrap sliced bread for 4 months is in the hands of paper processor and the baking industry. So the whole idea that they just decided to wrap it in a different thing and still slice bread, but the whole idea that you're trying to save money by not slicing it, it just saves time and it saves I don't feel like slicing it. It's
money you save, the time like that extra like 5 minutes of time.
But it was
with every single household in America. Like,
well, we're not talking about saving time for the people. We're talking about saving time for the business. The business. That was the whole idea that, oh, it's just taking too much time to get a machine to slice the bread and then pre-package it and do all this stuff when we can just send it out like that and have the people slice it themselves. It's like, you're not, as an industry, you're already making so much money. You're supposed to accommodate the people that are buying your product, not make it easier for you. And I think that's a good... That's a good stem to this podcast. Like, the idea that we start from sliced bread, but the whole idea that industries seem to be more focused on making better production and less quality goods and not really caring about their consumer as much.
Well, yeah, because it's totally ass backwards. You hear people, like, talking against, like, the automation of jobs, like, nowadays, where, like, that's such backwards thinking. You don't bring the industry backwards so, like, the game is fair. If the industry blasts past, like, unsliced bread, then unsliced bread dies. Like, that's how the game works.
That's what really gives
That's how society works.
That's what really gives you credit when it comes to a company, like a family-run company or something, because they don't end up expanding their stores. They end up keeping one small business and keeping it the same people, keeping it in the same group, but they care about their customers. They create relationships with the customers. I feel like an industry does better in that standards than something that's monopolized like McDonald's, where they start to lose. Like, now it's just so easy. It's like all they have to do is heat something up in the microwave and hand it to you. You know what I mean? You're willing to accept it. As a society, you have to kind of, a lot of people say, let's go out to eat, because they want to feel that connection, kind of. It might still be a business, but there is still the aspect of, like, someone has to put time into making your food. It's not something that you can pop out in 10 minutes. With bread, it's just a little easier because it does save time in a household. But at the same time, it also highlights, like, the bread industry. Like, they're willing to ban this just to save a couple extra cents. And realizing that the cents is so, like, minimal, they're getting more complaints and an outcry from people that's like, it's not worth the time and effort. We're getting more letters, which is just really draining down our mail and everything, so we might as well just, spend that extra few cents.
Yeah.
So, around the world, due to its convenience, sliced bread is popular in many parts of the world, and usual thickness varies by company and country. In the United Kingdom, sliced bread is sold as either extra thick, medium, or thin, varying across the 5 to 20 millimeter range. I didn't even know there was thickness to bread.
I think we just, like, America just has the one thickness generally.
Yeah, we just kind of, like, just look at that. There's different slices taste too, like different bread taste. That's something to kind of dive into.
Because we have the different, like, styles of bread, but generally the sliced bread we buy is just, like, the one, like, average thickness.
In the United Kingdom, you can get extra thick, medium, or thin bread. In the Republic of Ireland, the most popular bread type is known as sliced pan, sold in 800 or 400 gram loaves, wrapped in wax paper, with the slices conveniently sized for making sandwiches and toast. In Japan, the same half loaf of bread is labeled by the number of slices, usually 4, 5, 6, or 7, and occasionally 8 or 10. Thin sliced crustless sandwich bread is also sold in Japan, since regular 4 to 6 sliced bread is deemed too thick. They already have packaged sliced bread, like not like that, but like there's no crust on it.
Yeah.
We don't have that here, I don't think.
No.
In America, Japan's always a step of fucking ahead.
See, Japan, they're
innovators.
Well, see, the whole like 4 to 6 slices of bread in each thing, like. You in America, you don't get a bag of bread that's not like at least 12 slices. Like we get a lot of slices of bread per like bag. So like in Japan, their whole society is balanced around like they're walking around every day. They walk to work. They walk into a like shop to get dinner, lunch, breakfast. Like their life is like on the go. Like they consume in very small sized like pieces. So like when a Japanese like person wants like some slices of bread, they want like 4 slices of bread. They don't want like a 12 like.
Yeah, they don't want a whole loaf. They want something they can quick make a couple sandwiches while they're at work or something.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that we do actually have another size of bread, basically. In Canada and the United States, the really only popular known company is Texas Toast. It's a type of packaged bread which is sliced at double the typical thickness of most sliced bread. I did not know that. I always think that Texas Toast is the things you mix with like spaghetti or something.
Yeah.
Garlic bread.
Yeah, that's like something you'd make garlic
what
bread
would you
with.
do without garlic bread? There
My
would be
God.
no Olive Garden. So in popular culture, the phrase "the greatest thing since sliced bread" is a common idiom used to freight or praise an invention of or development. A writer for the Kansas City Star wrote that the phrase is the ultimate depiction of innovative achievement and American know-how. In 1940, a package of bread consisting of 2 wrapped half loaves was advertised as the greatest convenience since sliced bread. So the whole idea, I mean, bread, it's obviously a win. It's so beneficial to society, so beneficial to time-consuming like efforts. Like you're really trying to save time and like get something that's convenient. Sliced bread's the way to go.
It's the same thing as automation. Like
Some people just eat bread.
The people in power, they don't like the industry to change because change means some people are inherently chopped off, you know? But, like, they don't want society to change to adapt to that. They just want it to stagnate. People don't want, like, jobs to be gone forever. They'd rather humans be trapped by jobs forever but keep this, like, system in place. Like...
Well, what's your favorite sandwich that you would make
Favorite sandwich?
with a slice of bread?
I'm a ham and cheese guy.
Ham and cheese? You ever try it toasted?
No. Well, I mean, yeah, I've tried it. Toasted ham and cheese, but...
Yeah, toasted. What is it? It's a grilled ham and cheese, right?
I'd probably like a ham and cheese melt, maybe.
Well, if anybody wants to try a good sandwich out there, the best sandwich known to man, you take 2 pieces of bread, put a slice of cheese on each piece, put it in the microwave with pepperoni sprinkled over top of both slices, melt it, bam.
That sounds pretty, like,
It's
sick.
pretty delicious, okay? That was like my childhood thing. And also, you toast a peanut butter sandwich with some fluff on there. Bam!
Before you microwave it, you'd probably want to toast it first.
Where will we be without sliced bread? That's a world I don't want to know what
Me
it was
neither.
like. Well, thanks for everybody for listening to this episode of Fill in the Blank, which is hopefully one of the best things since sliced bread.